Hi everyone. Okay, in this video I just want to do an appreciation for the British director Michael Apted. Michael Apted actually passed away in 2021 at the age of 79, but he had a really prolific career. He's a director that really managed to find a balance between working in documentary and also feature film. And the feature films that he did, a real wide range, a lot of human interest dramas there, some comedies, some thrillers. He directed a number of actresses towards Oscar nominations. He did a Bond movie. He worked with Gene Hackman a couple of times. So a real mix of films there. But absolutely, probably what he should be remembered mostly for is his participation in directing the Up series of documentaries, which began in 1964 with 7 Up. And this was effectively looking at a range of children from different social class backgrounds and following this Jesuit principle of show me the child at 7 and I'll show you the man. And so the principle behind that is basically that character traits are kind of set by the time that you're 7, and this will play a part throughout the rest of your life. So in the Up series, we effectively are following this range of individuals every 7 years. So from 1964, when this first appeared on Granada TV, right up until 2019, when we get to 63 Up. If Michael Apted had still been alive, then we would perhaps be looking at 70 Up in 2026. Unfortunately, there does not seem to be any plans for that following his passing. But yeah, a really, really fascinating set of documentaries this. So, like I say, 1964 to 1963, there's nothing else that's been like this. And probably nowadays, the fact that we've had social media for the last 20 years, maybe the relevance of this doesn't seem quite so important now because everyone's showing their lives on social media. But yeah, really, this was an absolutely fascinating set of documentaries, just showing the sort of ordinariness of these people's lives, but from different cultural backgrounds. And yeah, just fascinating to see these people grow over time. So yeah, if you've never seen the Up series, absolutely essential viewing. Turning to his films, I'm going to start with one which I actually still haven't seen, and I don't have it in my collection. It's a film from 1974 and it's called Stardust, and this was a sequel to this film which I do have and I have seen, and that's That'll Be the Day, starring David Essex, and we have Ringo Starr in this film as well, and even a brief appearance from Keith Moon from The Who. Great movie this, and it focuses on David Essex's character as Jim McLean, who's a sort of a young guy on the Isle of Wight. This is actually filmed, who is kind of just wasting his life and finding himself and discovering that he wants to be a musician. And so Stardust is actually the sequel to That'll Be the Day, and I'd really, really like to see that, because That'll Be the Day actually finishes with David Essex's character going into a musical shop and buying a guitar. But yeah, this is a really fun movie. Lots of great music in this, including the likes of the Everly Brothers and Billy Fury, Del Shannon, that kind of thing. So yeah, fun movie this one. But yeah, I still haven't seen Stardust. I'd love to see it. Agatha from 1979. Now this is an interesting one. This one has Vanessa Redgrave playing the crime writer Agatha Christie, and this imagines what may have happened to her in 1926 when she went missing for 11 days. And Dustin Hoffman in this film plays an American journalist who happens upon her in a hotel and yeah, has an acquaintance with her. Yeah, interesting film this one. What I really love about this film though is not so much the actual storyline, but the costume designs and the production design, and particularly the cinematography of Vittorio Storaro. And what's really fascinating is that Vittorio Storaro filmed this film in between doing 2 pretty major epic movies. So he filmed it in between doing Bernardo Bertolucci's 1900 and Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. In 1980, he directed Sissy Spacek to an Oscar in Coal Miner's Daughter, playing the country musician Loretta Lynn, with Tommy Lee Jones in this film as well. Great performance from Sissy Spacek. Excellent film. Continental Divide from 1981 is a light-hearted romantic adventure that gives a atypical performance for John Belushi. I wanted to like this one more than I actually did. It has Belushi playing a sort of political journalist who, after an incident, is told to go to the Rockies and recuperate and cover a story involving an ornithologist who studies bald eagles, and then gets into a bit of a sort of a romantic adventure with her. A likeable film, but I must admit I actually do enjoy bald eagles myself and photographing those, and so I was quite fascinated to see what this would be like, and that side of it is perhaps not as detailed as I would have liked this film to have been, but nonetheless it's quite a charming film. Pangyang Kipperang has the distinction of being one of the very first films that was commissioned by Channel 4, and they actually showed it on just the second night of Channel 4 launching back in 1982. This is a gentle comedic story, a coming-of-age story about a young kid basically just wanting to have his first kiss. He has his first crush. His life is narrated as if it's done as a sort of cricket commentary. It's a gentle comedy, quite likeable, nothing too memorable. Perhaps other comedies such as Bill Forsyth's Gregory's Girl are much more memorable nowadays. But Pangyang Kipperang is still a significant film for being integral to Channel 4. Interestingly, in the States, this film was released as Kipperbang, just because Pangyang Kipperang was seen as a bit too confusing. Definitely an outrageous title. The actual phrase itself, Pangyang Kipperang, is just a nonsense phrase that the kids use in the film to show camaraderie and connection with each other. Gorillas in the Mist is another film that received some Academy Award nominations. This one has Sigourney Weaver as the real-life anthropologist Diane Fossey, who went to Rwanda to study gorillas and had a tragic ending. Interesting film, this one. Rick Baker's involved in this film for doing some of the gorilla effects in this one, as well as there being actual gorillas. It also co-stars Brian Brown. Interesting film, this one. I must admit, nowadays I probably prefer watching documentaries. So for instance, there's a great documentary called Jane about Jane Goodall, who also did similar work, and I really like that documentary film. But this, at the time, I really loved this film, and again it's been quite memorable for me. I actually went to Africa in the 90s, and I wasn't able to go to Rwanda at that time because of the troubles, but I did get to see gorillas in Uganda. In 1991, Michael Apted worked for the first time with Gene Hackman in this Class Action, which co-stars Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. It's a legal drama, legal thriller. They both play lawyers in this, so father and son. They're both involved in the same case, but on opposite sides. This one doesn't quite work, to be honest, because it has that element of the family drama. So there's that family dynamic that needs to be played out throughout the film to work out their differences, but then also there's the actual legal case itself, and the legal case becomes less interesting. You're more concerned with the family drama in this, and so it doesn't quite work, but it is an interesting film nonetheless. Thunderheart from 1992. This was co-produced by Robert De Niro. It's an FBI thriller that's set in a Sioux reservation and involves trying to solve a murder that's happened there. Val Kilmer's character is part Sioux himself. Val Kilmer, Fred Ward, Graham Greene in this, and Sam Shepard. Pretty good movie, this. But what's really interesting as well is that at the same time, Michael Apted also made a documentary feature called Incident at Oglala, which was produced by Robert Redford, and that looks at the murder that took place on a Pine Ridge reservation in 1975. So parallel storyline, if you like. Just fascinating that Michael Apted made a feature film and a documentary film at the same time. Blink from 1993. Now, this is a really enjoyable, far-fetched but entertaining thriller that has Madeleine Stowe and Aidan Quinn. Madeleine Stowe in this one playing a character who has been blind since childhood but who has just regained her sight, except she has lots of side effects, so blurred vision, hallucinations, which doesn't bode well for when she thinks she's witnessed a murder. So yeah, this is quite an intriguing thriller, this one. I do really like this film, and I like Madeleine Stowe, I like Aidan Quinn, so they both make this really enjoyable to watch. Cinematography on this one by Dante Spinotti, music by Brad Fiedel, who also did the soundtrack for The Terminator. Nell from 1994. Now, this one's also filmed by Dante Spinotti. Really nice camera work in this. But yeah, this is a drama that's set in North Carolina, up in the mountains. And Jodie Foster in this one playing a character who has lived in the mountains all her life, been cut off from society, and really has developed her own speech and way of language. And she's left by herself when her mother dies. Liam Neeson is a sort of doctor who encounters her up in the mountains and wants to get to know her better and understand her. Yeah, this one, I think it was accused a little bit of Oscar bait, if you like, but Jodie Foster, as I understand it, actually counts this as being one of her favourite performances. So yeah, an engaging film, this one. Might not be for everybody, but yeah, it is worth watching. Extreme Measures from 1996. This is a thriller that has the strange casting of Hugh Grant alongside Gene Hackman, and this is a medical thriller looking at medical ethics. So Hugh Grant in this one playing a doctor who realises that some patients are dying mysteriously, and then he's not able to do post-mortems because the bodies have gone, and he investigates further and discovers that Gene Hackman is a doctor who is doing very unethical procedures so that he can advance research. So yeah, medical ethics involved here. Yeah, an interesting and entertaining kind of thriller, but yeah, that casting of Hugh Grant perhaps goes against the film a bit. Always Outnumbered, Always Outgunned is a really interesting movie from 1998. Now, this is a made-for-TV movie, so I don't think it has any sort of DVD or Blu-ray release. But yeah, definitely an interesting one. If you can find it, it is shown on YouTube. Great cast, this one. It has Lawrence Fishburne, lots of other great actors, including Cicely Tyson. Natalie Cole is in it. Bill Duke, Bill Nunn, Isaiah Washington, Bill Cobbs. Yeah, really, really good cast. Lawrence Fishburne in this one playing an ex-con who's released from prison and needs to try and get his life back on track. He encounters racism, prejudice when he's looking for work, but he touches on other people's lives as well. So he has an old friend who's dying of cancer. He meets a woman who's having relationship problems with her husband. He meets young kids who could get into a life of crime themselves, and so he touches on all these people's lives. It's a really interesting movie, great performance from Lawrence Fishburne, and perhaps what's really interesting about it as well is the fact that it's got a screenplay by Walter Mosley, and Walter Mosley may be best known for writing the character Easy Rawlins, and Denzel Washington played that character Easy Rawlins in Devil in a Blue Dress for director Carl Franklin. Then in 1999, Michael Apted got involved on working on probably his biggest production, a James Bond movie, which was directing Pierce Brosnan in The World Is Not Enough. You might remember Robert Carlyle in this one as the Bond villain, probably one of the weaker villains that there's been in a Bond movie. But yeah, this is not the best of Bond, to be honest, but it does have an absolutely fantastic pre-title sequence, one of the longest sequences that there's been in a Bond movie, which has Pierce Brosnan starting off by jumping out of a window, and then it finishes up with him on the River Thames in a fantastic speedboat chase that culminates with him jumping onto a hot air balloon and then falling onto the roof of the O2. It really is a spectacular sequence, one of the best that there is in a Bond movie. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie is not quite so riveting, although it has its moments. And of course, Bond does get to discover that Christmas comes more than once a year. And then just returning to documentaries, Michael Apted got involved in America in doing a new documentary series that he envisaged, like the Up series, being able to continue every several years or so. And that was doing Married in America. Now, I haven't seen the first one, but I have got Married in America 2, which came out 3 years later in 2006. So a similar kind of principle, if you like, to the Up series, in that they're looking at a range of people from different backgrounds who have got married for different reasons. So shotgun weddings, childhood sweethearts, different races, different genders, the whole range of people who get married, and the intention here was to look at them over a lifetime and see how those marriages progressed. Now, a bit of a flawed project, this one, because Michael Apted was very keen to get them to sign contracts to make sure that they would agree to appear in future documentaries, but marriages don't always work out, so you can't expect the contracts to always work out either. And so Married in America 2 was actually just the second and final of this documentary adventure, if you like. And also another factor which affected the fact that this wasn't able to continue was also the financing of this. So the Up series had all been financed by Granada TV, but Married in America, that very much depended on the success of the program to be able to get the financing for the next one. So yeah, this one was short-lived, unfortunately, but it is still very interesting to at least watch this documentary, which does have a recap of the first Married in America, and get to see all these couples and how they fared in their various marital circumstances. Okay, a few other Michael Apted films that I haven't spoken about, but include The Triple Echo from 1972, which stars Oliver Reed and Glenda Jackson. The Squeeze from 1977, a thriller with Stacey Keach. Gorky Park from 1983, a political thriller with William Hurt and Lee Marvin. Critical Condition from 1987, starring Richard Pryor. Enigma from 2001, starring Kate Winslet. Enough from 2002, starring Jennifer Lopez. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader from 2010. And Chasing Mavericks from 2012, starring Gerard Butler. Okay, so that's not an exhaustive list. There are still some other Michael Apted films that I've not mentioned. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of the films that I have discussed here, and particularly also the Up series. Have you watched the Up series, and how affected were you by watching that? Okay, thanks very much for joining me on this video. I hope I will see you again. Okay, all the best to you. Thanks. Bye.